It is the first Sunday for 2026, and it's time to bring you up to speed with all happening in the world of sports, even as the 2025 African Cup of Nations is still ongoing. The only African that has been able to run through December 2025 and then get into January 2026. What a year for football on the continent. I am Onyenyechi Obaro. This is In the Game, and we'll get into our African experts very soon. I'm not alone in the studio. I've got two gentlemen in the studio. Got sport editor for News Central TV, Babatunde Koiki. It's great to have you. I would say Happy New Year on the show, because it's the first we are having on the show for the year.
True.
We're both on the show for the year, so Happy New Year to you. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
And also we have in the house a sport journalist, one who knows his onions, I would say. We know we have Wale Scott. He has been several times on the show, and I've not said Happy New Year to you, have I?
Happy New Year.
Nice to have you on.
Head swelling, I know my onions, fantastic.
All right, it's great to have you both on the show. It's been an interesting time, but I would say that is that time to bring you update, especially now that we are tracking the story around developments coming from renowned boxer Anthony Joshua and his associates. The funeral service ongoing in London now. The funeral rites of Sina, Ghami and Abdul, Latif, Latz, Kevin Ayodele, both close associates of world heavyweight boxing star Anthony Joshua, are underway in London following their death in a tragic car accident in Nigeria. Now, the Janaza prayer began at 10 a.m. at London Central Mosque, Park Road, marking the start of the final farewell for the two men whose remains were returned to the United Kingdom earlier this week. According to official funeral program, Abdul Latif, Latz Ayodele's Janaza prayer was held at the mosque before proceedings moved to Hendon Cemetery and crematorium for 12 p.m., the burial of Sina, Ghami. A wake is scheduled to follow later in the afternoon at the Cavendish Banqueting Hall in northwest London. Funeral arrangements had earlier been confirmed through social media posts and notices at the mosques detailing the date, time and venues of the services. Ghami and Ayodele lost their lives in a fatal accident on December 29, 2025, along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway at the Makun area of Ogun State. Now, reports indicated that the Lexus XUV conveying Anthony Joshua collided with a stationary truck. Both men died at the scene, while Joshua reportedly sustained some minor injuries and received medical attention in Lagos. Ayodele was Joshua's long-time trainer, while Ghami served as his strength and conditioning coach. Both of them are regarded as key figures in the boxer's professional journey. The deaths have drawn widespread tributes from the global boxing community and fans who continue to mourn the losses of the two influential members of Joshua's inner circle. Our senior international correspondent, Afia Hagen, is live in London with the latest development, and she brings us up to speed at the moment. Afia, thank you so much for standing by. I know you've brought updates on Breakfast Extra, but please, beyond the headlines, what are you hearing about these two men and how they have been remembered?
Yeah, Sina, Ghami, Kevin Ayodele, so highly regarded in this community. Now, we've been talking to people who have formed part of this huge crowd that you can see behind me. The crowd actually now going into the mosque for this Janaza prayers that begun just a couple of minutes ago. Now, I got here a couple of hours ago and there was no one here. That crowd swelled to the point it overtook the road, actually. But people I spoke to, what I felt was very notable, number one, is that people didn't want to speak on camera. People were very happy to speak to me, but didn't want to, quote unquote, as one person said it, be famous. But what they said was, one person said to me, I didn't know either of these men, and I didn't know Anthony Joshua personally, but they were both so inspirational to me and what they did in their communities and what they did through fitness. And I just wanted to be here to pay my respects. Somebody else I spoke to was a friend of the family and said that the family were just absolutely devastated. A friend of Sina Ghami's family said they were just absolutely devastated as to what had happened to him and wanted to be here to support the family. Another person said to me that he knew him from mosque, from the community, and just said that they wanted to be here to pay their respects to know that they were supporting the family in this, their time of need. So people were really still very shocked and still obviously devastated at this tragic accident that took place, just a week ago, on Monday this week, 29th of December. And people really feeling the depths of that shock, the shockwaves, it's really sent shockwaves through this community, throughout London and throughout the boxing world as well. And people are still really trying to come to terms with that. And that's a huge part of what these Janaza prayers do, what any funeral service does, is really help with that grieving process.
All right, we understand how this news was received by the United Kingdom and the globe. Every single person, got their hands on deck to make sure that they follow the developments around the story. Now, has this tragedy sparked wider conversation within the community, particularly among young people around there in London?
Yes, there's been a few different conversations at play when it comes to this particular story. So one conversation people are having is most certainly around road safety. How safe are roads in Nigeria? The Ibadan Lagos Expressway is notorious for accidents that happen every single day that don't go reported because they don't feature a famous heavyweight boxer. So people having those discussions, how safe is it to drive in Nigeria? I think another discussion that people are having is, look, these three young men, and I include Anthony Joshua and Nat, were at the top of the world, at the top of their game after this huge week that they had in Miami with Jake Paul and his camp and everything that he did with Netflix. And also that how quickly life can change, that they were literally, all everybody was talking about for the right reasons. And now look at why everybody is talking about them. I think that is really, really prevalent as well. People talking about the fragility of life. I think people are also really talking about how these three young men, there's lots of great things for the community and how people can continue doing that. We've seen the three of them doing charity work here in the United Kingdom, Dubai, Gambia, Nigeria. There's been conversations about how they can continue that work, how they can continue that sense of community. And also the fitness community. One of these young men owned a gym. That gym has been closed since his death. And I think people are really talking about that as well, how much health and fitness plays a really positive part in their life and how they can replicate that in their own lives as well.
All right, Afia, please, just a minute while I turn to Tunde. Tunde, I would like you to walk me through how the Janaza prayer it's undertaken. I would like to know. I want to understand what has been done at the moment.
Yeah, it's a pretty brief ceremony. Okay. Basically, just the Muslim faithful, they gather behind an imam. The bodies are placed out in front, and just the Quran is just recited very quietly, very somberly, and prayers are offered up for the souls and the repose of the dead. There's nothing dramatic about it. It's pretty short ceremony, where most of the length or the duration of the ceremony might be where there's a sermon, okay, where the imam is urging the congregation to take heart, speaking about death, its finality, and the fact that we're always supposed to live a life that is worthy of revelation. Okay,
with this understanding, Afia, as this prayers gets underway, what message would you say defines this moment?
Gosh, I think this moment is about a few things. I think it's definitely about the fragility of life. These two young men can be enjoying themselves on a break after working so hard, and then they have their lives taken away from them in such a brutal and such a public fashion as well. And I think as well, this is about community. This is about a community coming together at this London Central Mosque to be there for the families, to support them, and to let them know that at this time, they're not alone.
Thank you so much, Afia Hagen. That's our senior international correspondent for News Central TV. Please keep ahead with the updates there. I'm very certain that she will join us in our subsequent bulletins on News Central TV. Back to the studio right now. An unfortunate situation here, not the situation that the families of these deceased prepared for, to get into a new year, having to bury their own. That's very unfortunate. But at this time, Janaza prayer ongoing. A lot of people are having some sentiments over there about safety and how fragile life is. Wale, how do you react to this update here?
I don't know. I basically grew up in a largely Muslim community. My mother's always been a Alhaja all her life, And I know for one that in Islam, it's believed that God gives and God takes. And that's the spirit that's going to be there today. The Imam is probably going to try and explain to them why life is a debt that we all owe, and we're going to pay it eventually, and guys take heart, basically like what Tunde has just said. But like I said, this whole thing comes down to coming to Nigeria and how safe our roads are and all that. That saddens me. I've gotten texts from different people and from a section of Nigerians, I won't call names, but you know what I'm talking about, who believe that everything about Nigeria is bad. You know, so they sent me text and said things like, Nigeria happened to Joshua, Nigeria happened to his friends, and I've given all of them the same reply I've given all the rest of them. Did France happen to Lady Diana? Yes. Did Spain happen to Diogo Jota? So let's leave that part of trying to blame Nigeria all the time, and let's look ahead of these guys are dead, may their souls rest in peace and all that.
Okay, let's look at developments coming from this particular situation. Now the latest, the uncle coming up with reservation saying Joshua's phone was stolen by bystanders who, in this guise, yes, trying to help Joshua. Then Joshua was told to cross to the other side
of the expressway.
Of the express. What is really happening? Are these not the loopholes we're talking about Nigeria happening to Anthony Joshua Tunde?
Yeah, I don't really know what to say, but while it does have a point regarding because the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, believe it or not, is one of the finest stretches of road in this country. 3 lanes. Even I think a UK correspondent came to the scene.
Yes,
and he did say that it can be equated to any highway in the UK. It was not Nigeria happening to Joshua. It was a driver who was driving recklessly and who caused that accident. Now, the issue regarding what happened in the aftermath, it happens everywhere, unfortunately. People see an accident as a kind of Black Friday. Remember the air crash in Ikeja a few years ago, where a plane crashed, and you see people rushing and try to loot the scene. Now you see the accident scene, people holding mobile phones, trying to capture pictures of Anthony Joshua so they can put it on social media and go viral. It just shows how how poorly prepared we are during situations like this. There was no emergency medical service within 5 minutes of the accident. Also, in a situation like that, the safety manual says very clearly, unless the vehicle is burning, you do not move, or the person is under immediate threat of death, you do not move the bodies, because he might have an internal injury you're not aware of. He might have a spinal issue. You might worsen the situation while trying to move him. The fact that they also have to be evacuated in a police truck, it doesn't do Nigeria any good. The PR is terrible.
Yes, indeed.
I think the truth be said, there was a particular plane crash behind my area then. So a cameraman was sent to me. I was in sports, but it was sent to me to try and cover it. Ironically, my friend were in school together, university together, Amy Aikomu's son was actually in that plane. Wow. But you know, we're trying to get to the plane, trying to get emergency respondents to get to the plane, and the crowd couldn't let us get there. Unfortunately or fortunately, when they could get the crowd to back out so they could move in,
control the crowd.
It blew up.
All right, there are other conversations arising from this situation. A lot say it's a Lexus SUV Jeep. It should have a dashboard camera.
Well,
it should have.
No, not necessarily. Because I think that that model, I think, is 2016. So it might not be the upgraded version. But there's also talk about whether it was bulletproof as well. But it doesn't change the fact that for you to share, you saw the pictures of the vehicle.
Yeah, the impact.
For you to share an SUV, a big SUV, is basically a souped-up or a luxury Toyota Land Cruiser. That's what an LS 570 is. For you to share it so badly like this, it shows you that he must have been traveling at tremendous speeds, maybe 150, 180, and
because a lot of
on a 100 mph road.
Yeah, a lot are saying, how was that speed calculated, the speed at which the driver was traveling at? Maybe the impact, that's what you're saying.
Yes, you actually calculate the speed by the impact on the truck.
We can't read the speed at which he was traveling at.
So if you watch, so every single car that is put on the road actually has to go through a crash test.
Yeah. The
crash test for the LS 470 is widely available on YouTube. Anybody wants to see it. You can see it at various impacts, at 50 kilometers per hour, at 80, at 100, at 150, at increasingly higher speeds. The level of impact is so devastating that it even affects even the people in the back seat. The only reason why we're not talking about a different funeral, about Anthony Joshua's funeral, is because he was sitting behind the driver.
And he had to change seats, according to the reports that we got. Anthony Joshua was seated in front. It should have been Anthony Joshua, gone at the moment. He had to change seat because switch the seats because the driver said he was blocking his rearview mirror. And Joshua had to go to the back seat. So it should have been anyone. But we're thankful that at least we have something to thankful for, the life of Anthony Joshua. But that does not mean that Joshua is more special than the two who left this world.